They call me the pigeon, dude. I look like a rabid bird. Can birds get rabies?
Shoot me in the face! In the face! Do it!
Birds aren't real, man. You gotta be a little loony to buy into some of that stuff, you know?
Or a lot loony. Tell you what's really loony, EJ. You got me to see the fucking Borderlands movie last week. This is the Console Crusade podcast, and I am Chris Gilly4. I have checked my dignity at the door because along with my co-host, EJ Olson, how you doing, EJ?
About to be a whole lot worse.
EJ proposed what is actually was a really good idea. He said, we watched The Last of Us and gave us an opportunity to talk about some, prestige TV on a video game podcast. Kind of feels like we should go see Borderlands because we could talk about it. And I said, there's no way in fucking hell I'm going to see this movie. There's no way in hell I'm giving this movie my money for a million reasons. And then EJ said, but the bit. And I said, you know what? You're right. Fuck it.
You are the movie guy on the video game podcast. You can't pass up this opportunity to see a blockbuster film based on a AAA video game.
No, you're right. And that's why I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And I did not buy my ticket until I knew that you had bought your ticket. Just in case it's like, that Family Guy cutback of Adolf and Ava in the bunker. He's like, no, you take it first. No. Oh, you stopped. Why did you stop? That was like just wanting to make sure that like we are fully committed to this. So we did it, and we are gonna talk about it. We're gonna review it. I've already reviewed it on Letterboxd. You can find me at Super Kawaii 420, Kawaii with 2 eyes. Yes, really. And my review is up there. But we're gonna talk about it at whatever length we wish to go with this poor, sad film. Where do we even begin?
Listen, this should be a short conversation because as bad as this movie was, it wasn't bad enough to be funny. It wasn't bad enough to be like offensive to the non-Borderlands and or video game fans. It was just bad. And halfway through the movie, I looked at Sarah. Mind you, this theater, not empty on a Tuesday.
We had some people too. I was like, who's coming to see this movie on a Bargain Tuesday even? Go see Twisters.
There are more people in Borderlands than I saw with Deadpool and Wolverine on a Sunday the week it came out. The weekend it came out. There was like 5 people in the theater for Deadpool and Wolverine. It was, to be fair, we were at Regal and Regal's weird. But I was like, this is opening weekend. This is the biggest rated R film ever. And there's 5 people in here. So yeah, it was kind of weird to like be in a theater, not full of people, but there was probably 20 people there.
20 people? That's crazy.
Yeah, people stayed hoping there was a post-credit scene in this film. That's crazy to me. To be so Marvel-pilled that you're like, Borderlands might have a post-credit sequence.
The only post-credit sequence this movie should have had was Eli Roth coming out hat in hand and saying, I'm so fucking sorry. It's not my fault. It's the studio's fault. I'm so fucking sorry. I'm sorry.
Eli Roth coming out and admitting that, yes, this is in fact an elaborate money laundering scheme, confirming what we already assume. Just for context, before you dive into this, my Letterboxd review. It's my first 1-sentence review.
Wow. Let's do this. I'll pull mine up.
I said, sometimes you just need to sit through something truly abhorrent to really appreciate the pretty okay stuff you spend all your time bitching about.
And you gave it?
A 1.5.
Oh, big spender.
I gave it that half star because there was like 1.5 decent performances. It looked like Borderlands, so it gets that half star.
Oh, no, it didn't. No, it fucking didn't. And I'll tell you why I know it didn't. This is the one good thing about going to see this movie, other than this, which is going to be really fun to just like shit all over this and unload all the zingers that I wrote in the car on the way home, is that to wash the stink of that movie out of my eyeballs, I got home and immediately threw Borderlands in the Switch. I've never actually beaten this game. I'm well into a Borderlands playthrough now and having a great fucking time. So that is the one good thing to come out of this, is that I've returned to the source material and I'm really enjoying it. I wrote, this is the most soulless movie I think I have ever seen. Not a single piece of this feels like anything other than a corporate cash grab trying to capitalize on the string of recent good to great video game adaptations. What a colossal fucking waste of the source material. Only Jack Black's Claptrap saves this from half a star, 1 star.
Claptrap was decent. Jack Black, he tried. He wanted to be there.
He did, and he is, I think, the only one who did. Except maybe Kevin Hart, but let's just fucking do this. Let's just get into the acting. Okay. The cast is insane. Like literally insane. We've got Cate Blanchett, we've got Jamie Lee Curtis, we've got Jack Black as Claptrap, we've got Kevin Hart. Like these are names everyone knows. I don't have a fucking clue who played Krieg. I don't really care. Everybody else, total no-name actor, whatever, who cares? But like at top billing, you've got a lot of talent on this. And Jamie Lee is Hollywood's most famous woman nerd, and so I know that she's like excited that she had an opportunity to do a property like this, right? Cate Blanchett, she looked and sounded like she spent the entire film passing a kidney stone. This is a woman who is 1 year removed from the best performance of her fucking career in Tar, which is a staggeringly good performance. And now she's cashing a dirty blockbuster money check, and it is so fucking obvious she knows she's better than this. It just oozes out of every pore, the disdain for both the material that she's performing and herself for agreeing to put herself in this situation. Like, that she's doing her first scene with Jamie Lee Curtis, and they are performing together, and I look to Tiffany and I say, these are 2 Academy Award winning actors. And then I literally exploded into laughter in the middle of the theater. All of the like fucking college kids around us who were there on Bargain Tuesday were like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my fucking life.
I mean, to be fair, Jamie Lee Curtis did more here and was better here than in the film that she won her Academy Award for.
Oh, that's not true at all.
She had fucking 4 lines as a bit part, and she got Best Supporting Actress. Talk about a fucking farce.
I agree Jamie Lee should not have won, but this was a bad performance. This was a BAD performance.
Had you not cast a 60-year-old woman to play Lilith and someone who wanted to be there, I don't know if that really makes this movie any tangibly better. But the worst part about it, and there are a lot of bad things, the script being one of them, it blows me away that scripts like this get made. You and I could spend 3 days on a fucking bender and write a better script than this, without a doubt. But I think Cate Blanchett was the biggest issue. And not just, I mean, she had the most screen time, but her performance was wooden, it was stale. You nailed it. She didn't want to be there, and it was so obvious. It was almost insulting to me that you would dare charge me money to like care this little about. And listen, I played 3 of the Borderlands games. I'm not a stan. I'm not a fanboy. I'm not steeped in the lore. Spoiler alert. I didn't know that Lilith was the key to, I didn't know that. I hadn't gotten to that point in the game. So like, I have no baggage whatsoever. I just was like, we're going to get like a fun little like space Western Guardians ripoff thing. And this movie totally could have been that. This totally could have been the Dungeons and Dragons of video game films, right? Just like a solid 7, just a fun, like no stake romp. And Cate Blanchett, I think, was the biggest problem with why this didn't come close to that.
Yeah, Tiffany was like actually furious that they cast her to play somebody so young and then did such a shitty job at actually trying to even pretend that she is that young. And then like, here's Jamie Lee Curtis that I'm supposed to believe is like old enough to be her mother. And I'm like, you're the same fucking age. You're the same age, or at least like in the same gen. You could be siblings. It's crazy. And her wig looked like it was bought at fucking Spirit Halloween on November 1st. It's like the last wig on the shelf. It was poorly dressed. It was poorly affixed to her head.
It didn't
I could
move.
see the wig line.
It just like,
it didn't move.
It was like, you see like Simpsons cosplay and you got the Marge Simpson hair. And you're like, Is that just plastic? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly. It was terrible. It was hilarious. I
don't think that makes sense. It doesn't work.
Nope, it sure doesn't. Speaking of doesn't work, Kevin Hart is trying so goddamn hard.
Bless his heart.
To show that he can act in this movie, and actually was doing a pretty decent job at just being really simple and believable, connected. And that's not what this fucking movie is in any sense of the word. So it just speaks to like how bad Kevin Hart actually is, that the one time he decides to try to be good, it's in a movie where I'm playing a soldier in Borderlands right now. All of the little quippy shit the soldier says, even the inflections he says them in, it sounds like Kevin Hart. Literally just do your Kevin Hart shit, and this movie would have immediately been better for it. But this is the time where Kevin Hart's like, no, I'm going to show these guys I know what I'm doing. I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to be really grounded in this video game film that's based on a game that is crass, disgusting, incredibly M-rated. Why was this movie PG-13? There was no blood in this entire Jesus fuck Christ. Okay, we'll get there later. And Kevin Hart's in the wrong fucking movie. And I'm like, God bless you. Bless your fucking heart, Kevin. What are you doing? What are you doing?
He was trying, and that's what matters to me. He was trying. In any other scenario, I wouldn't say I maybe would have been impressed by Kevin Hart, but I would have been like, dang, Kevin Hart's like, he's going for it.
Look at that.
You're
Look
exactly
at that.
right. The one movie where Kevin Hart just needs to do Kevin Hart shit and be dumb and ridiculous and annoying, and he decides not to do it, or is directed not to do it. Who knows? It's Eli Roth, for Christ's sake.
Oh, no one directed this film. There was just somebody next to the camera who said action and called cut. That is all that happened on this film. I guarantee you that.
I thought that Ariana Greenblatt, baby Gamora, as
She was pretty good.
Tiny Tina, showed some spunk, dude. There was a little something there. Yeah. And it sucks because I think in a bad script, the way they wrote her and the lines they gave her, it was probably the worst thing about the script. That first scene, Kevin Hart, you know, they bust into to save her, and they meet the psycho, and they have this tender moment, but they're getting chased, and he's beating people up, and they're explosions.
We're buddies now.
Right. And she's
Remember
like,
Creek from the game?
never mind, I want to go back to my cell. And it's just like the most slapstick cringe. People got in a room and thought this was funny. And this is the problem, and we have bitched about it with video game adaptations before, that the people who are making these films, the people who are writing these movies, I don't know how they view people who play video games. Never mind, it's the biggest hobby on the planet besides watching football. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and yet they continue to infantilize us like we are little babies who, like, oh, they're going to get a kick out of this, these stupid little bitches, these little 12-year-old bitches. Saying this was written by a group of college kids would be an insult to student filmmakers. And I got to tell you what, Chris, I've bitched a lot about Deadpool, both on and off the air, because I think a lot of what Ryan Reynolds does is just cringy, over the top, like, haha, they're going to get a kick out of this shit. This movie, in this writing, made me appreciate what Ryan Reynolds has done in retrospect with all the Deadpool films and with that character, despite my gripes. I'm like, oh, this is what it looks like when it's actually really cringe and they don't know how to write comedy. I think the funniest bit in the movie was, God, it was so annoying. It made me mad when it happened. The bus driver, and he keeps calling her a vault hunter, and she's like, not a vault hunter. And you're like, okay, like, yeah, we've seen this 1,000 times. And then it pays off later where he's like, you're a vault hunter. And you're like, oh, this is as good as it gets. A poorly paid off bit that is like, every time that guy talks, you're like, shut up, dude.
I have two things on the script. One is that just like I think no one directed this movie, no human wrote this movie. This was written by a chatbot that they fed 90s action movies that were rated less than 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. Like, there literally aren't any proper nouns in this script. It is the most generic, basic, bullshit ass plot beats where it's not even like, we've got to get the Warthog Jeep over to Jump Piss Gulch so that we can make it into the blah blah fields. It's like, we have to outrun them. We have to make it to over there and send soldiers to get them. Like, there's no names, there's no proper nouns. And at least like action movies that are like good B action movies, sci-fi action, especially where it's like you get the fire hose of proper nouns where they're trying really hard. Like they really want to build a cool world for you and they've thought a lot about it. And some of the names are stupid and the film may not even be that good, but it like is trying so earnestly. That's part of why I just felt like this was just devoid of any heart or soul or anything animating. It was just literally like a dead body they stuffed Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Hart into. But in all seriousness about the script, 2 people are credited as writers, Eli Roth and Joe Crombie. Joe Crombie is not a real person. Joe Crombie is a pseudonym. The first draft of the Borderlands film was written years ago by Craig fucking Mazin. And when he saw what the studio had fucking done to it, by the time it actually got to production, he took his fucking name off it and slapped a pseudonym in the credits. He's like, I do not want any inch of me affiliated with this piece of shit film. Smart move.
Well, he's moved on to bigger and better things. Obviously, Craig Mazin, most recently of The Last of Us fame, very relevant to what we talk about on this podcast. He did Chernobyl, which was cromulent, might we say. He's done some stinkers too. So it makes sense that he not only was involved in this, but also wanted his name off of it. It totally tracks.
Yeah, I think they just were like, we're going to do whatever we want with this. And yeah, like you said, he's moved on and then went, oh my God, what have I done? I cannot have this hanging around my neck while we're getting ready to ramp up to like the release window for The Last of Us season 2. Like I can't be doing this.
I got to tell you, I've said it before after watching season 1, which we were, I think, pretty lukewarm on despite some of the highs. I think we kind of came down to earth by the end and it was very well made, but had some issues. Not exactly the guy I think who's going to take all of the pacing and general structural issues of The Last of Us Part 2 and translate that adequately to a season or 2 of television. We'll see.
I liked it. It's still the best video game adaptation that's ever been done, but it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
Sonic fans would like to have a word.
Hey, I like the Sonic movies. I like them both, and I'm looking forward to Keanu Reeves in the third installment. That's going to be great. Oh my God. Do I have anything else about acting? Oh yeah, they spent so much money on the top line that we got Dollar General Pedro Pascal as the villain. And what I can only describe as someone using Channing Tatum's exact Gambit accent unironically as the chick with the tits who was sheltering them from the police.
The Channing Tatum accent was actually really accurate.
I lived in the region. It's a very funny layman's version of what they think a Cajun accent sounds like, but it was supposed to be bad on purpose. And hers is unironically, she thinks it's good and it's terrible.
Yeah, I was watching this dude on TikTok who, he's like a food guy, and he's got the exact same accent, dude. And now he actually blew up because of the Channing Tatum cameo. Because people are like, oh my God, this is like the real Gambit or whatever. He's just like some random dude eating gumbo on his TikTok every day. And he's like, suddenly I have hundreds of thousands of followers. Why did this happen? Thanks, Channing Tatum. Thanks for the meme.
Speaking 3 languages at the same time with just a deep, deep, deep drawl. Cajun's wild, dude.
That's all you got on acting?
Pretty much. Other than that, I enjoyed Jack Black's Claptrap. He was having a good time. And it was the closest to any of these people even remotely being like what they are in the game. He was annoying, he was witty, and he had no social sense. And that's exactly what Claptrap should be. The only genuine laughs I got in the movie were on some of his lines. I did get one really huge laugh for the wrong reasons, that in the scene where Commander Love Interest is looking for them in the city that's name I forgot, and is like talking to Madam Tits at the bar about like, did you see them? And she's like, this guy was drunk. And he's like, you tased me. And she's like, no, you were drunk. And they're getting smuggled out in the garbage can. Highbrow stuff, first of all. But second, there was just a can of Axe body spray just sitting on the bar in the middle of the scene. And that absolutely fucking sent me into hysterics where I was like, why is that there? Who put that there? Like, why? Is this a mistake? Is this on purpose? The production design is so bad. I genuinely don't know what the answer to that question is.
I did not notice that. That's funny.
A can of blue Axe body spray just sitting right on the bar, right next to the like what? Why is that there? I don't understand.
We left this movie. I mean, there were several moments where I looked over at Sarah, and I either rolled my eyes or I like made some vague, exasperated sound. You know, Sarah's not exactly a film critic, shall we say. She enjoys a lot of things that you or I would probably scoff at, but she's not one to pay too much attention. She's more like put on a movie while I'm reading a book and, whatever. A lot of bad movies on our shelf. And I think some of the things that really bothered me about this movie, I don't think bothered her as much. But when we left the movie, she said, I didn't know what the fuck was happening from like the first 3 minutes of that movie. I don't know who is whose dad. I don't know who has the power. Why did she have the power? Like, she was completely confused as to what. She's like, I don't know what they were trying to do. Like, the nuances of, like, Kevin Hart defected to keep the head of InGen or whatever the fuck the company's name was. I forget.
I don't know.
To keep them out of the vault because of what they might find in there. It's like, okay, potentially interesting plot beat. Like, they didn't really message that very clearly at the beginning that, okay, we knew that he was here to rescue the girl, but like obviously the mystery of who the girl is and why they want her and who her quote unquote dad is not unveiled very adequately and certainly not interestingly. You're like, oh, broad strokes. Okay, I kind of see like, and again, I don't know the lore of Borderlands well enough to be like, oh, this is just what they did in the game across 4 games in a prequel or whatever. But like, it was done so poorly here, and by the end, and it turns out, you want to talk about plot conveniences. You like, okay, so it's actually 6-year-old Cate Blanchett is actually the one, and the happenstance of her being sent to find the little baby Gamora clone. It just so happens that her mom set this plan in motion, and she's actually the missing piece to uncovering this power from the vault. You're like, what? Is this in the games? Is this how it plays out? What the fuck is this?
Not even remotely to my knowledge. No, I mean, I'm assuming there are keys, but I never got that far into the game. But the person being a key felt like a really flimsy way to try to create some stakes of like, oh no, they're going to kill Tiny Tina or whatever the fuck her name is. And then we get them just literally ripping off like all the iconography of Dark Phoenix with Cate Blanchett suddenly getting fire wings. They're like, remember how Fox made the worst X-Men movie ever twice? Let's rip that off to be the climax of our film. And everybody said, that sounds great. And they were all probably so incredibly high on cocaine that they just slammed their hands on the table and said, that's brilliant. Run it.
At the very end where they're sitting and they're watching, I can't remember if there was a fireworks show already happening, but she's like, do the thing. And Cate Blanchett does her really bad, like, I'm not going to do the thing. And she makes Tiny Tina says whatever she says, and Cate Blanchett's like, okay, I'll do the thing. And she like, oh my God, I just, you're right when you said that this is like Chat GPT just took every bad video game script and they're like, okay, we'll do this. There are all these moments where I can't believe that a person thought of it, said, you know what? That works. We're doing that. And then saw it through to execute. I mean, it's beyond me that could be possible. And this movie, okay, let me, before I talk out of pocket, I want to know exactly what the budget for this movie was. $120 million. I know that there are people, every time one of these types of movie comes out, there are people who get on and they fucking bitch and moan and complain about the state of filmmaking today and how these studios and the expectation of the box office and the weight of, how much they're investing in these films, it's crushing the industry and it's snuffing the life out of smaller films like we used to get. Who's doing small films? You get some A24 films that are basically all the fucking same thing. What a dire place to be for the film industry right now. $120 million.
What did they spend that money on? Because it's sure...
Cate Blanchett.
Oh, my God. Because it sure the fuck wasn't any of the production design. It sure as fuck wasn't any of the sets. All of these sets look like they're made out of spray painted styrofoam and 3D printed plastic when we're not getting shitty VFX. The production design looked like it was done by a third grader with a free on Craigslist budget. The first Firestone scene, she's walking in and there's just like some things on the ground. They're not arranged in any particular order. There's just some stuff there. And then later when we're in the settlement, there's like, you know, a heap of stuff that's supposed to look like trash that's been picked over a bunch of times. And there's just like a whole ass blue bicycle with like fresh, shiny, brand new paint. Literally looks like it was just plucked right out of the fucking Walmart rack and dropped into the shot. Krieg, when they're like opening up the hole to go into the mine, there's some sheet metal that is clearly a big fucking piece of plastic, and Krieg picks it up and it bends like a big piece of plastic because it's a big piece of plastic. And then they clumsily throw an audio file of sheet metal bending like whoa, 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 whoa over the top of it, out of sync with the movement of the item that he's lifting. Hysterical. Amazing. This world is not lived in at all. It feels sterile. It feels like somebody whispered the artistic aesthetic of Borderlands from like 3 hotel rooms over, and that person who heard that designed all of the sets and all of the production. It's a world where everything is rusted out, it's dirty, it's gross, and this just literally was like, well, we scuffed the paint. That counts, right? Like, I don't know how anybody looks at that game and goes, this is that. This is what that is. Even in terms of like trying to adapt this into another medium, it's just like a shocking lack of attention to the source material.
You know, I said it earlier. I think this was reasonably close to what Borderlands looks like. It looks like gas station Mad Max, like and this goes to a broader point. I don't want to defend. You make some good points. I'm not going to defend them by any means. But this goes to my broader point that, like, the Borderlands video game script is bad. It's not a very good anything besides a shooter. It does the looting shooting very well, and the online co-op spectacular. You can play Borderlands for hours and get in that loot grind. It's fucking great. It's just kind of the problem with having real people on screen do this, and even though the script has a lot of issues, I think it's more of a testament to like how kind of stinky Borderlands is. Same thing when I say gas station Mad Max. Like, there's nothing impressive about the world of Borderlands. Like,
no, but it is distinct. Oh, I mean, it's more distinct than this one.
Sure. I was gonna say, I don't know.
Just being a rusted out shithole, and this was just like there's some clutter laying around. There is a lot of this game that is really funny. The characters are like pretty distinct. There's a lot of funny shit that they say. There's a lot of really crass shit, irreverent shit, gross shit that they say. How did we get through an entire film with a bunch of psychos and not a single one of them ever said, "It's time for my pound of flesh," which is like literally the psycho line they all say when they run at you, which is a great thing to say if you're a fucking nutcase and you're running at somebody with an axe in your hand. They weren't even crazy. They were just like, like Krusty the Clown ass shit in their fucking underground bunker. TK Baha, hilarious. Dr. Zed, creepy, weird, clearly has done some malpractical medical things in his time. We didn't get any of these characters. We got bus driver guy, who they literally hired off Fiverr to look just like the bus driver guy. And we got Jamie Lee Curtis as a character who up to this point in the game only appears in voice logs. We could have gotten any of these other dudes, like the guy who runs the Hitch a Ride station, the Get a Ride station, has some really funny and weird dialogue about his own mother. I'll tell you the biggest problem with this is that they wanted to make money on this by advertising to families with children, and this should have been a fucking R-rated film. This always should have been an R-rated film. This game doesn't work without an R rating. It needs to be bloody. You get a headshot with a sniper rifle or like a long distance combat rifle shot, their head explodes into a puddle of cell shaded blood and they collapse on the ground. They explode if you fire a rocket at them, and the little pieces of them go all over the place. They swear constantly, and not just Kate Blanchett saying shit and asshole and making them the least convincing swears I've ever heard. like a fucking Catholic schoolgirl trying to swear for the first time to be edgy around her friends while her parents aren't home.
I don't know if making this movie bloodier or have more swear words would make it any more interesting. I think it would just start to have.
It would have been more fun.
It would have. I don't know.
More fun.
I think we just would have had some of the Deadpool problems. I don't think it being rated R is a prerequisite to them taking $120 million and telling even a remotely interesting story or it being well acted. Like all this potential and all the money in the world. You know, it's not like this movie was held back because they couldn't afford to do what they wanted to do with it. It's because there were people attached to it who didn't fucking care.
That for sure.
Eli Roth to Kate Blanchett. I don't think it being rated R fixes anything here.
No, you're right. You're right. But it had no chance of success whatsoever.
Right.
Without an R rating. And I don't think, again, that's not going to magically make all its problems go away, but it may have climbed up to a 2-star.
Maybe.
It wouldn't be like the bomb of the year. So bad they yanked it out of theaters and put it onto streaming weeks before they planned to.
There have been a lot of bad movies this year, but like Borderlands, again, I called it truly abhorrent in my Letterboxd review just to kind of make light of like, you know, again, we bitch about a lot of pretty good things, and this is not pretty good. But like, Madam Web came out this year, and Borderlands is a lot fucking better than Madam Web, Chris. So it's like, yeah, the movie's not good.
Borderlands 1.7 on Letterboxd. How much money did this movie make?
I wonder what Madam Web got on Letterboxd.
1.5.
Okay.
1.5. It is worse.
It is worse. Did you see it?
Borderlands. Oh, fuck no.
It's so
Absolutely
bad,
not.
dude.
The film Borderlands has made approximately $18.6 million worldwide.
I'm telling you what, if I had $18.6 million, I'd be pretty happy.
Madam Web, $100 million worldwide.
That
So when we're talking about
is
bombs,
crazy.
people like their spider content. That movie fucking sucks, but so does Morbius. Craven's gonna be terrible. But people will go. They will go. Borderlands, bomb of the year by every conceivable metric. This movie has probably fucked the next like 6 video game film adaptations out of existence, which is really, really sad because Hollywood's going to learn all the wrong fucking lessons from this yet again and say, oh, I guess it's just too risky. I guess we can't do it. I guess it should have been a TV series.
If this got the Twisted Metal treatment, is it better? Probably by a long shot. I mean, Twisted Metal wasn't anything to write home about, but it's getting another season.
Well, yeah. I think there's a much larger margin for error when you're working in television that you can have like okay viewership and still get renewed for a second season because there are so many places that the content can be hosted. But if you go out on a $120 million budget and you literally don't even make 10% of that back when you need to exceed by like 25 to 50% to make it profitable, that's crazy. Catastrophic.
I know that we've talked a lot about like where the film industry is headed and where it's been for the last couple of years and the death of what we know is cinema, whatever. And the meme now that like I think that everything should be a TV show. You know, this last week I watched Little Miss Sunshine and I'm like, what a great, hilarious, emotional, endearing film that you can tell this entire story in 2 hours and it's perfect. But everything that Hollywood wants to do would literally be better as a TV show because that's what they're trying to do. They're just making really bloated, expensive Cliff Note versions of these massive stories with all these characters and these ongoing plot beats, and they want to make 3 movies, and they want to make 7 movies, and they want to make cinematic universes. I'm like, it'd be better as TV because they all want to be TV. Of course, that there are a lot of caveats to that. Budget. And for you as someone who views like film as an experience, which to me, I'm like a 5-star movie is a 5-star movie no matter where you watch it for the most part. Thankfully, Borderlands is bad enough. There won't be a Borderlands 2. So we don't have to worry about that, do we? But it probably robs us of a potential Borderlands television series that could have been really fucking interesting.
Maybe. Could have been. Could potentially have been.
Could have been Halo the TV series, man.
Oh, yeah. Super successful 2-season. Talk about a show that had no idea what to do with its source material. Just fucking do Halo.
Dude,
Just fucking do Halo.
This is my beef. Dude, I might get tangential on a Final Fantasy thing here. Hold on. Let me see if I can get there. This is my beef. Again, I said it earlier, the way that these Hollywood execs, but it's not just the executive. It's not just the moneymakers who are out of touch. It's the writers' rooms. You saw this with The Witcher, right? They want to take the source material because it's easy. They're creatively bankrupt, so they can take all this gold fucking S-tier source material and they can jerk off and feel good and feel like artists by fucking around with it and making this thing that people might like for a year and then be like, look at us, we did a good job, until they do it again and again and again. And now they've bastardized the source material and they've pissed off the fandom. They haven't made anything compelling in its own right. I was actually thinking about this last week because you and Will and Andy were talking about Final Fantasy Rebirth, and obviously, having played nothing more than 5 hours of the first remake, something in the back of my mind always just felt a little annoyed as not a Final Fantasy fan. But the idea that they're like, we're going to tell this like remixed version of the story. And for fans, it's like, oh, they're doing a multiverse thing. This is like, it's so interesting how they're playing with it. And to me, I'm like, what it is it's creatively bankrupt. Tell a new fucking story. Don't just take the thing that you did and say, well, let's do it again, but fuck with it because we can. That is not interesting. That is not, to me, creatively sound. That is not praiseworthy. And that's not to say they can't do something amazing. Clearly, they're doing something that people like. But just that idea that we're just going to take this thing that exists, that works, that people like, and we're going to do whatever the fuck we want with it because we can, and fuck you. I hate that. I hate that idea. And that's what any video game adaptation is. It's just, fuck you. We can do what we want. I hate it. I just had to get my Final Fantasy digs in there, man.
Yeah, well,
it was a great podcast last week.
I've filtered you enough that you have your own setting on the fan at this point for all the stuff that's getting caught in there. I mean, God. What does it mean to adapt something? What does it mean to remake something? What is the obligation of the people team that is returning to something like that? If you just do a beat for beat version of the exact same thing, it's going to get attacked because you're just being derivative and unoriginal. And I already played this. Why am I doing this again? Is it enough to just update the systems and bring them into a modern era? How faithful is too faithful? Is it the obligation of the developers to improve issues with things like the quality of life? I mean, these are all questions that need to be answered. I would always rather an attempt is made to definitely improve things that have aged poorly at fucking Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door. Sorry, Nick, I know you're not here to defend it, but Jesus Christ, like, if you're going to remake the game, then remake the fucking game, improve the game. Like, don't just do cursory stuff, make it better.
Yeah.
And that's what Square is doing. And I know I said this quote last time, but they, didn't want to remake it because it felt like an admission they couldn't make a better game. And I think that they were like, I think we could tell this story in a way that is still true to the world, true to the characters, true to the conflicts, the central themes, but not just retread everything. It is extremely audacious. I do not know of another property that has been remade like this to the degree that they are attempting. And we'll see how it turns out, but I'm always going to praise the attempt. And I think Rebirth is also an excellent title in its own right, which I had less. I'm closer to Will than Andy, I think, maybe, with how we fell out on that. But that's neither here nor there. I want to say this with regards to video game adaptations. In the pantheon of bad video game movies, I'm talking Silent Hill, I'm talking Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat is the third one that I was just going to say. You can say these are bad films, but they are trying so genuinely to translate the source material into something that makes sense on screen, and everybody in that movie is fully committed to the thing that they're doing. I love the 90s Mortal Kombat. It is so camp. It is so fun. Like the fights are like cool, like the martial arts and stuff. Seeing all these characters on screen, the costumes look so cheap because it's the fucking 90s. Like you can't do much more than that in the 90s if you're trying to like make Sub-Zero look like a cool ninja with a face mask. Like it looks hokey, and that's part of the charm. They're really trying to translate the source material. Fighting in Scorpion's realm. Amazing. They're trying to translate this source material. And usually that's exactly why they end up being bad, is that they try too hard to capture the spirit of the video game. But at least it is still rooted in the spirit of that game and what they saw when they picked up that Super Nintendo controller, that Sega Genesis controller, and went, okay, this is what Mortal Kombat is. This is what it feels like. This is what it looks like. Let's try to do that in a movie. This is worlds, universes apart from Borderlands, which is a game that is gross, is rooted in combat, is rooted in blood, guts, swearing, delights in irreverence and wanton bloodshed. This is nothing like the source material at all. At all. It took everything that makes that game Borderlands as opposed to any other first-person shooter with different character classes and tries to pass it off as an imitation of this because, like teehee, juvenile humor a couple times in the movie, I guess they got peed on. I don't know how we arrived here. That we've even in the early, all these video game movies, dare I say, Super Mario Brothers. That may actually be the 90 Mario may actually be the closest thing to Borderlands, where they went, we are going to do basically nothing that is even remotely related to this game, which admittedly doesn't have a plot to begin with. We're going to put a ton of weird shit into it. It's going to be late 80s, early 90s as fuck. But like, oh, look, they're jumping high. Oh, look, the mushroom saved them. Oh, look, he got turned into a dragon at the end. In the same way that it's like, oh, look, that's Lilith's hair. Oh, look, she phase walked. Oh, look, Krieg is a psycho. Like, oh, that psycho set that psycho on fire. That's like the burning psychos in the game. It's like, oh, look, the movie. And that makes me really fucking sad because I thought we were past this. I really thought we were past this in a post Last of Us world with a fucking God of War adaptation coming, Fallout, which was really well received and I still need to watch. And we fucking get this. And we fucking get this instead. You can make a Borderlands film that's an hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours long and is a good movie. You could absolutely do that. And this did every conceivable thing wrong to do it. And I hate that. I hate that a lot. It upsets me. Like you said, I feel infantilized. Like this is all you're capable of processing, you stupid fucking gamer. Take your medicine and like it. Give us your ticket price. We'll do this again in 3 years with something like fucking Gears of War or some shit. Good old PG-13 Gears of War. Fuck's sake.
I would love to potentially craft an ongoing bit in this vein and then revisit Borderlands. I want to watch The Rock's Doom and Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raider and Blood Rain and Wing Commander and all these like horrible video game adaptations that exist.
Tomb Raider is not bad. Tomb Raider is not bad.
Buddy.
That's the best. For a long time, that's the best we got. I'm not saying it's good,
buddy,
but for a long time, that's the best we got. I would be down as fuck to do a Console Crusade video game movie review series.
Born right here. This is the beginning, and it might also be the end because we're going to come back to Borderlands with some context, right? It's easy in the moment, the recency bias, leaving the theater disappointed, dejected, disgusted with the state of video game adaptations after what was a pretty reasonable run over the last 2 years, 3 years. I think we come back to it after we watch some of the dregs of the adaptation world. Fucking Far Cry. Like, the Mortal Kombat ones are fun. You know, Mario is fun. It's not good, but it's fun looking back on it.
Mortal Kombat is so much fun. I actually kind of liked the new one too. I know people were really butthurt about like, there's no tournament. But I was like, the fights were sick as fuck. They got real martial artists to do this movie. So when fucking Scorpion comes back from the grave and fights Sub-Zero, the dude from the fucking raid, it's a great fucking fight. They are actually fighting each other, and that is sick as shit.
Add Double Dragon to the list. You ever watch Double Dragon? Dude, The Rock.
Double Dragon. No.
Dude, The Rock has like actually been in like a lot of video game adaptations. Totally forgot that Rampage got an adaptation in 2018.
Oh man. Is The Rock in Double Dragon?
No, The Rock's not in Double Dragon.
Do we count Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Or is that an animated adaptation? Because I fuck with the Turtles.
I mean, it was originally a comic, and then it was an animated property, and then it was a video game, and then it was a film. So I don't really think it counts. But the first Turtles movie is like unironically really solid.
It's good.
The second one is ironically good, but pretty bad. The third one we don't talk about. But I'd watch the Johnny Knoxville Turtles movies, just the Michael Bay ones. Was it Michael Bay who did those?
I thought it was. He produced it. It's got his stink all over it. That movie fucking sucks.
They made 2 of them.
Did they really?
Yeah, there was a sequel.
That's sad. Wow. So the real question is, how are we going to get Nick to do this? Or is this just going to be like a Nick wants a week off sometime, and so Chris and EJ are watching Mortal Kombat Annihilation and hate texting each other about it the entire time?
I'm in. I bet we can get him to watch that Monster Hunter adaptation from a few years ago.
Oh, the Mila Jovovich. Yeah. That could be fun. This could be a great, it's a slow news week.
When's the last time we talked news, Chris? We don't talk news anymore.
EJ's only played Warzone for 3 weeks, so he's got literally nothing to contribute to what we've been playing. Nobody's written a game show segment, and it's just like me and Nick going, well, I've been playing this thing and, like yakking about it for a little while. This would be a great slow week segment as we get ready to do, like 8 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever of The Last of Us in January.
Oh, it's coming up. Listen, I've been so letterbox pilled. I would love a reason to keep watching things I haven't seen before. Part of the reason I am so letterbox pilled right now, Chris, is because for all the reasons I've already talked about the last 3 weeks we recorded, but I think I maybe mentioned on air, we're transitioning all of our Blu-rays to 4K. And listen, we're a physical media household. Okay, I want the best version of the thing. Of
course.
And we had an extensive Blu-ray collection, and we're finally taking the leap now that 4K is affordable, and you can start getting them for $8-12 a pop instead of $40. And we've made a huge dent in the collection. But now I have to watch them all to make sure that like all of the discs are good, but also just consuming them now that we have better versions of all these films we love. So we've been slowly whittling our way through the year of all these movies that we've bought, and Letterboxd gives me a way to log them, and I love that. So anyway, I've mostly only been rewatching, though, is the thing. So having a reason to watch things I haven't watched, even if they are 1-star films, I'm totally down for that.
Absolutely.
I said in the Discord, you can go to solo.to/ConcertCrusade, get the link, join the Discord. I had said, last week you had Andy and Will on, had a great conversation. I listened to the whole thing about Final Fantasy Rebirth. And I said, man, I regret not being a part of that. Not that I would have had literally anything to contribute whatsoever, because I don't know jack smack about that. And it would have just turned into me being a contrarian, just to poke the bear a little bit, which I don't think would have been fun for you guys. So anyway, I would love to have one or both those guys on, and maybe this is a good reason to just talk some shit. Hey guys, sorry. Will, you're going to have to watch Doom 2005. Okay?
I remember not hating that. I also remember being confused why none of the Doom creatures were in it, but we'll see on a rewatch. I love that it had the climax of the film was in first person. I thought that was fucking cool when I was a kid. Spoilers for Doom 2005. The climax is in first person.
My climaxes are also in first person.
That's good. I'm glad you're not dissociating at the moment of rapture.
An out-of-body experience. Like, that's what I look like?
Oh, no.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's like a walrus assaulting a tourist.
I'm sure if we were like, more adequate movie reviewers and we actually took notes, and a lot of the podcasts I listen to, they don't go beat by beat all the time, but they kind of go beat by beat, and this movie is not worth doing that with.
No.
I called it truly abhorrent. That's an exaggeration. It's a 1.5 star. It's more forgettable than anything, and more disappointing that this is the state of filmmaking when it comes to this. Not that video games. I don't think video game movies are a genre. I think that's a little silly, but yeah, in the world of video game adaptations, it's more disappointing. But it's forgettable. Like, it's almost not offensive enough to be mad about. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing? For me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I left with my head in my hands, sort of shaking my head like, what was that? But I wasn't pissed. I was just like, that's terrible. That really sucks. That is how I spent my Tuesday. Amazing.
I will say, I was in the theater. We were in the very, very back by the projector at the Cinemark. So we're all boxed in. It's like we had our own private box in this theater. So one of the benefits of being up there is I could have my phone out and I wasn't disturbing anyone, other than maybe Sarah, who probably didn't give a shit. But I had my phone on low brightness, and you were texting me, and then I think talking with Nick about something unrelated to Borderlands, and I was just like checked out towards the end of the film, completely checked out. I'm like, yeah, it's lost me. They went into the sewers together, and I was like, I'm fucking done with this movie. I checked back in just for the end of the film where they melted. Oh gosh, who's the gal who plays?
You talking about Commander Love Interest?
She played the right hand, the gal who shows up on the flying bike during the chase sequence.
Yanina Gavankar.
That sounds right. She played a character in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Which is funny. She was involved in the Game Awards. Was she a presenter or something at one point? She's been pretty tied to the video game world. I know her from The League, which I don't know if you've watched, was a sitcom that was on for like 6 or 7 years, and she played a character on that show and was pretty fucking funny, and I like her a lot. Not enough to know her fucking name. Anyway, I checked back in when they melted her into goo at the end.
She dissolved into particle effects. Very expensive particle effects.
Oh, I thought they gooed her.
No, she gets zapped and it just goes. Pff.
Well, shows how good my memory is. I thought they turned her into goop.
That would have been
a lot cooler if they did.
Actually, kind of funny. Yeah, be a lot cooler if you did.
Well, that's Borderlands.
Oh my god, that's Borderlands.
It's a stinker.
I'm excited to get off this call and go play some Borderlands and continue to rewrite the neural pathways of what Borderlands brings to mind whenever I hear or see that word.
You playing on Switch, not PlayStation?
Oh yeah, you know it. I've got the full collection on Switch because of course I do. Hey, it runs great. Looks like it runs great. Loading times, not so great, but you know what? Who cares? It's smooth. It's fun. It's fun.
I'd be interested. I have a friend who is a massive Borderlands fan, so I'd be interested to dive back in. I tried to play Borderlands 3 multiple times. It's not very good. It's the worst of the Borderlands games that I have played. It's got a lot of issues, and you want to talk about soulless. Felt like there was no reason to be there, and a lot of the systems were annoying and needlessly complicated for a game that is get mission, go to place, kill thing, get better gear, rinse and repeat. Instead, you were doing a bunch of menial fucking bullshit, and you're like, is there a story here? Like, what do we... Anyway, I saw they just announced Borderlands 4 with a fun little splash screen.
They did.
It was inevitable.
Trying to capitalize on the rollicking success of the feature film.
Listen, the current interest is at an all-time high here. Now, what they're trying to do is damage control for whatever harm the movie has done to the IP. Who knows?
Yeah.
All things considered, other than the fucking haircut the studio is taking on this property, I don't think it's so forgettable. I don't think it'll have any impact, positive or otherwise, on Borderlands as an IP. It's completely negligible. I mean, $18 million in 6 months, people will literally forget it came out. It'll be like
I hope so.
It'll be like Far Cry, the movie, and we'll be like, wait, they made a Far Cry movie 10, 15 years ago? And we'll be like, holy shit, they did Borderlands with Kevin Hart. What the fuck?
I did not know there was a Far Cry film until you told me. So
yeah, there you go. It's a whole world waiting for us out there, Chris.
oh my God. Is this going to be Silver Screen Saysen? Is this going to be what that finally takes the form of?
I think that is a safe bet, given that it fits into what we're currently doing without a whole bunch more work on our part. But I like watching anime, and Sarah and I are going through a My Hero Academia rewatch right now, and I would love a reason to watch anime and talk about it with you. You're doing Dragon Ball Z right now, and you text me every night about, how are you liking the Boo Saga? I mean,
dude, I am like right pretty much up to the point where when Toonami stopped airing new episodes, this is like right at that moment was Vegeta blowing himself up. That's the last time that I was actively watching the releases as they were happening. I've seen the episode where Goku stalls Boo before his time on Earth runs out and he has to go back to Otherworld. And I've seen some stuff out of context, but this is all going to be new from here on out. Yeah, this is a really good show. I was really, really scared I was going to come back to this show as an adult and be like, man, the thing I really like actually really sucks. This is a damn good show. And it's got compelling arcs. It's got fights that literally only continue to get better, at least up to this point, in quality and in terms of variety. That in the early going, it's like a small flurry of blows and then one punch determines the entire fight, which is very samurai film coded. And like, it's 1989. It makes sense. But now we're actually getting like different strats. We're actually seeing them like mix it up a little bit, try different techniques. Cell Saga was great for that because Cell could just be like, here's literally everyone's technique in the history of Dragon Ball Z being thrown at you at the same time. Fucking amazing. Amazing. We'll see how the rest of the show turns out.
You're watching the Kai cut with the Faulkner score, which is a fan project, but you have the benefit of watching, I think they cut it from 290 fucking episodes or something to like, is it single digits through the Cell Saga? I mean, it's crazy how much of the show they cut.
Oh yeah, they cut almost 150 total episodes out of the show.
Sorry, not single digits, but under 100. It was like, I think the Cell Saga finishes in the 90s or something. I'm like, this show's like 250, 290 episodes. I've used this phrase in the past, the perfect form of my nostalgia, right? Where you come to something with rose-colored glasses and it's not the original thing, but it's hitting all the right notes the way you remembered it, and it's just sort of this idealized version. So coming to the better cut and vastly improved performances, like holy crap, you're getting Chris Sabat and Sean Schimmel 25 years in, and what a world of difference that fucking makes for those characters who know they know each other, they know the characters, and it's a really good cut and it's a really good fan project.
It's an outstanding dub, and I don't generally like to watch dub. I'll only watch it if I have a nostalgic attachment to it so that it sounds the way I remember. Like Yu Yu Hakusho, I won't watch subbed because it's going to sound wrong. Like I want to hear that. I want to hear the cast that I know. It's been tight, dude. I'm going to jump into... I'd like to get tonight to that episode I just alluded to for reasons I won't articulate because Tiffany's in the other room and can hear me. But if you recall that last episode before Goku goes back to Otherworld, we get some revelations.
Perhaps a new transformation. Perhaps
that is what I'm talking about. We also get an explanation of some things and some codifying with specific terms of some things that had only kind of sort of been discussed in the oblique. This will all make sense to my wife. Probably tonight, maybe tomorrow.
Before we wrap up, can you explain to me how the fuck she, as you put it, 360 no-scoped the relationship between Boo and Satan? What the fuck?
It defies all logic, any sense of credulity. It just appeared out of the ether. So for context, we're sitting there. Majin Buu has just appeared. He's childlike. He's figuring out how to walk. He's jumping around. He's getting angry. He turns Deborah into a cookie and he fucking eats him. He's literally beating the shit out of the Supreme Kai. And Tiffany goes, is he going to become best friends with Mr. Satan? Because he totally should. And I stop. And I get off the couch. And I walk up to because I'm like plugging my laptop into the TV with the HDMI out. And I push the space bar and I turn and I just stare at her for like 5 seconds. And I go, how in God's name did you just pull that out of your ass? And she goes, is that real? And I'm like, yeah. How did you just guess that? She's like, it just makes sense. They're like each other. They're just like, they're both alike. They're both like children, I guess, was her like, corollary there. But I went, that is astounding to me that you could just, as I said to you in a text, 360 no scope, one of probably the most unexpected plot beats in the whole show of Mr. Satan finally having a moment of genuinely being useful. Crazy, absolutely crazy to me. And she's like, I kind of wish you hadn't told me because then we would have got to that in the moment and I would have went, oh my God, I was right. But I was like, no, I know. I was just shocked, like literally shocked that you could just call that out of nowhere. And there's a lot of other stuff that she genuinely did not see coming that had a lot of impact, like Krillin's death on Namek, especially. And she's like, I like Krillin a lot. He's charming. He's funny. Like, the witnesses in Dragon Ball Z, I think, become some of the most endearing characters. Like right now, like Goten and Trunks were watching Boo beat up Supreme Kai. And she's like, there's always got to be a witness. And I'm like, yeah, there is. Like, that is our eye on the scene as we're processing, they're processing. Like, it's a great device. And Krillin is the witness on Namek because he's the weakest of the Z fighters who make the trip. Anyway, great fucking show. I'm liking it a lot. I can't wait to finish this. Tiffany said she wants to watch everything. I've never seen GT, and I was like, it's non-canon, so we can skip it. She's like, no, I totally want to watch it. I'm like, great, because I've always wanted to watch it, and I never have. I know what happens, but I've never seen it. So we're going to watch GT. We're going to watch Super. We're going to watch Battle of Gods and Resurrection F and just fucking skip those arcs. Like, I don't care about the other stuff they wrote in during that time period. Those are both like really high quality animated films. I would rather watch that than the shitty art in the first chunk of Super, because I know that was memed to oblivion, like how fucking bad that art is. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather just watch the movie and move on with my life. And I know very little about Super. So I'm going to be pretty damn clean going into this show, which is kind of crazy with how long it's been out that I've not had very much stuff at all spoiled for me, like really minimal stuff, like mostly transformations, like new forms. That's like it. I don't know like any of the other story of Super really at all. So I'm super stoked to get into it.
It's I'll be curious to see how you feel about it. It's, in my estimation, pretty bad, but there are a lot of expectations there. It's triumphant return, and to me, it's comparable to like what Star Wars has done or what Marvel has done for the last 4 years. I'm just, could be better, not for me anymore. You know what they say, Chris? Don't go chasing waterfalls. Stick to the rivers and the streams that you're used to. I think.
You're gonna have it your way or nothing at all.
That's what I'm saying, baby.
Oh, great song. Console Crusade, solo.to/console crusade. Join our Discord. Give us your takes. Having new people in recently has been such an infusion of great energy. Let's get some more folks in there. Western Kentucky University students, you all know I have a podcast. None of you have plausible deniability anymore. Join the Discord, damn it.
Oh, no.
I mind my P's and Q's. I don't say anything in any social media that could be objectionable or come back to haunt me career-wise. The worst thing that's going to happen is getting roasted for my takes on the pod by my students, and they're going to roast me anyway because we have a very wonderful relationship, my students and I. They keep me honest.
You know what's so interesting about being our age and being around like 20-year-olds is we don't feel that far removed from being just like them, but to them, we are so fucking old and out of touch. Like, it's just one of those weird things where, like, if we were
I ain't out of
50,
touch.
you know, see, that's what you say, Chris, but we are. We are out of touch. Skibbity Ohio Riz, dude.
I spent all summer with a bunch of like Zalphas, like Cuspers basically, and Gen Alpha kids. They don't know what it means either. It's just a bunch of stuff that enters into the popular culture. And I came in one day to Hamlet rehearsal. This is the last thing I'll say that we're going to fucking get out of here. So I have to piss. I came into Hamlet rehearsal and the kid who was playing Laertes was in the middle of a lecture to all of them about Skibbity with like a whiteboard marker and like writing things on the board and like answering questions and stuff. And so I go home that day, and before I come back for rehearsal the next day, I watch like the first like 5 or 6 episodes of Skibbity Toilet to like see what it's about. And I get to rehearsal, I'm like, yeah, so like after yesterday, I wanted to kind of figure this out. And so I went home and I watched the first 5-6 episodes of Skibbity Toilet, and they're like, why would you do that? Like, we don't know what that is. We don't know what that means. It's just the thing that became a thing, and now we all say it, and nobody really has any sense of that. It's just nonsense. It's intended to be nonsense. Brain rot videos, very funny.
How old were those kids?
They were like 13 to 18, and then the last 2 weeks I was teaching, I think my youngest person was like maybe 11.
Oh, wow. Okay, so prime brain rot target right there.
Yeah, totally. And I even, one of my improv games, we played Hitchhiker, like everybody's supposed to get a trope, and then when they enter, everybody has to adapt to the trope, and then they're all doing the trope. And I gave one of them brain rot. They didn't have a fucking clue what to do with it. They had no idea, because it's not, as with the boomers telling us that it's all our fucking avocado toast and our irresponsible this and that, and we don't work hard enough. This is generationally out of touch. We look at that and you're like, I don't understand that. And thankfully, we're not so quick to pass judgment as our forebearers were.
Not yet, we aren't.
Not yet, but it's totally incomprehensible, and it is to them as well.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, I'm going to go eat pasta and listen to your 8-minute voice memo that you sent me that I haven't listened to yet because I was on the phone before we got onto the podcast. So,
oh, geez. I sent you a number of them, and they are very spicy, so enjoy. Let's get out.
Console Crusade. The Console Crusade podcast. That's for you, man.
Podcast.